Hey guys, Stealth here. Today I'm looking at an Euro Airborne deck, so we're looking at Eurocorps. Now you don't see Eurocorps Airborne decks that often, which piqued my curiosity, so that's why I'm reviewing this deck. And Sausagemonsta, great nickname by the way, thanks for sending it in. Now a Eurocorps deck gets access to, of course, France and Germany. That gives them units that are very nice in tandem, like Fallschirmjägers and Commando Marines. Stuff like that can really pack a punch. What you don't see very often is those in an airborne deck. Eurocorps are most likely mechanized or armored, because with that you get both the heavier armor from Germany and the light and quick units from France. Here we only get light and quick units, and let's have a look at what he has in this deck. Logistics, there's the Führungsgruppe, or the command infantry, one card of those, and then he has an Iltis KDOW command vehicle. I'm going to take this one out because I think that 9 command vehicles is too many. He built this deck for a 3v3, 4v4 and 10v10, so a high population, and then having 9 command vehicles is just too many. Even as his strategy is take and hold, and then use air superiority to bomb the enemy, I think that 9 command vehicles is still too many. So what we're going to do is take out the Iltis, and we're going to add a VAB. It at least has some armor. It's a little bit tougher than the standard command vehicle, and if this thing gets shelled, at least you have a decent chance of surviving it. Then I'm going to have a look at this command infantry, because the Dornier 205 is traveling at 220 kph. With an airborne deck, I usually want to do a fast land grab, and I think that the Panther, although it's slightly more expensive, it is about 80 kilometers faster. So this unit is going to arrive a lot faster. And with that, it's more suitable for an airborne deck, or at least that's the way I feel about it. Then he has one card of Puma 330L logistic choppers and one fob. The fob is very important in this deck, because most helicopters take up supplies pretty quickly, especially using ATGMs. So sometimes if I'm going with a very heavy helicopter deck, I'm going to go with 2 fobs, but I don't think that this deck will need that. Now in infantry there's all sorts of different stuff. It seems that he was building the first couple of necessary building blocks and then see what he had left. Because first you're going to see legions, AA, commandos, ATGMs, again AA, fire supports, infantry, light riflemen if you want to call them like that, or light infantry, and then more Fallschirmjäger. Now he's going to go for a take and hold strategy. So his main objective is to quickly capture terrain, and that's definitely when you want to use the Puma 330s or the Puma 330 standard. You don't definitely need the Pirate, but the Pirate does come with autocannons, which are nice. So if I were to guess, I'd say that both Legion cards, both this one and that one, so you got 16 Legionnaires, are going to go in first, along with the Fallschirmjäger in their CH-53Gs. Combined with a couple of Mistrals and Pumas and maybe some ATGMs. As an airborne deck, you do not get any IFVs or APCs, or I believe you don't. Some decks do, but this one, no, everything is flying. That makes it extremely maneuverable, but also negates the advantage that you get from having IFVs with autocannons. So that is something that we have to keep in mind when using this deck. We don't get any autocannons with the infantry. Now infantry wise, 16 Legionnaires is definitely nice to have. They got the Erix, which is a very good anti-tank weapon. Then for more backbone of his army, he has Chasseur 85, good rate of fire, nice anti-tank weapon as well. For more in-town fighting, you get the Deckungsgruppe. I'm not sure that these things are going to be too useful in a 10v10, but I see them being useful in a 3v3 or 4v4, so we're going to keep them in. Then he has 10 Mistrals, one card of Veterans, and one card of Hardened. So you got 10 AA units, and that should be enough. Then there's the ATGMs, which is only one card of 6 ATGM LAN F3s, and those are going to take out the heaviest tanks for us at long range. 26 AP power, 2450 range. That leaves us only with another card of Fallschirmjäger, and these are, I suppose you could say, the standard Fallschirmjäger, because they don't have the 90s edition. I'm not really sure why he brought these in. I'm thinking that he had them lying about, for lack of a better term. He had one activation card left, or activation point. And he probably went for the Fallschirmjäger. Now let's see if we can use anything other in that slot, because we already got 6 Fallschirmjäger for the initial push. And then while these guys are still very, very good, there is some other infantry that might be useful. Standard Legionnaires are nice, but they're not that interesting. You can get 12 or 8, but we got 78 infantry units, so we don't really need to go for numbers. We could bring Sapeurs. It really depends on the kind of engagement you want to do. I see the Sapeurs being useful in a 10v10 like, I believe it's Gaul or Asgard, where you have the large town in the middle. And these Sapeurs can then suppress other infantry, while the Fallschirmjäger finish them off. But in a situation like that, you could argue that Fallschirmjäger themselves might also be very useful, and even more useful than Sapeurs, because they can do multiple jobs, like take out tanks. Another unit that I'm thinking of using is the Commando Marines. You don't get that many of them, especially not if you're flying them in the Panther. Panther and Pirates are limited. You get 6 at Elite, but if we use them at the Puma 330 transport, then you get 8 of them, which is the same as the Fallschirmjäger. But comparing these, you're going to see that while they are pretty similar, the Commando Marines got 15 guys. They got a solid assault rifle, where these guys only have a submachine gun. They got a decent machine gun, whereas the Fallschirmjäger have a better machine gun. And anti-tank wise, they are pretty similar. The range on the Commando Marines is a little better. Rate of fire is the same. AP power is 3 higher for the Commando Marines, and you get the same accuracy. But you get 4 more rockets. And since they're very survivable with a 15-man squad, I'm going to delete the Fallschirmjäger and bring in 1 card of Commando Marines at the Elite level. Support, let's have a look at what he has in here. He has 10 Crotals, 6 at Trained and 4 at Hardened, which should be enough for the main helicopter AA. Then he has 1 card of Roland 2s, which I think is very, very light. I would like to have 1 more card of AA, but you don't get any long range. So this is pretty much the best that he has to offer. And if we can be careful with these guys, and in combination with the Crotals and the Mistrals, it should be enough. And then he has 8 of these AML 6020. They look like combat cars, but they're actually mortars. They just don't have a large range, only 4200, but they're nice and mobile, 90 kph. They got a decent amount of rounds, although not a lot compared to other transports, to other mortars I should say. Their HE is very, very low because they only fire a 60mm round, but they are still mortars and they can still be used in that role. Alternatively, you could use the Caesar, but in this case, this one might actually be more useful because it's better at supporting the infantry pushes than the Caesar. Because this one can put down smoke screens a lot faster than the Caesar can. Tanks is easy, we only get to choose the IMX Harpoon 13, and we're not going to use that, so I agree with Sausagemonsta there. Then he has 3 Fern Spayers, which I think is not enough. I would always take 4 because the 5% more likeliness of spotting and identifying enemy units, I don't find it that useful. So we're just going to revert this back to 4. He has 9 recon helicopters, which is a very, very high amount. 3 recon choppers of the Tiger type and 6 Alouettes. I would be inclined to take 1 more card of recon infantry. It depends on how you want to use this deck. If you want to be fast with a helicopter push, you could go for 9 recon helicopters, although I still think it's too many. If you want to do a more controlled 10v10 where you push up with recon infantry and you run out of Fern Spayers, you could try, for example, the Commando Paras, and especially in maps like a 3v3, having a couple of Commando Paras with some Commando Marines, for example, would be a nice combination, a nice punch that you can deliver. The thing is that we're going to have to sacrifice either one, and I think that sacrificing the Alouette here is less painful than sacrificing the Tiger. So we're going to change it like this. I now have 10 recon infantry, which is a bit high, but I prefer to have more recon to make sure that I don't run out. Vehicle-wise, he went for the Weasel the Weasel 1 TOW 2, which is an interesting choice. If he's going with this on 10v10s, I would not take these guys because of their lack of autonomy. Only 200 kilometers, which is some of the worst in the game. He also went with the Iltis Milan 2. 12 of those are trained. These are probably going to be spread out all over the map to make sure that he has a decent anti-tank line, and they only have to hit pretty much once in order to get that 25 points back. So we're just going to leave it like this. It's just that I'm still a bit hesitant about the TOW 2. The Milan 2 is another alternative, but it's going to be too similar to the Iltis Milan 2. It's pretty much the same Jeep, or at least the same weapon on a different vehicle. So I think that this is pretty much the only high-end AT vehicle that we can pick, so why not? Helicopter-wise, 3 Tiger HAD anti-ground units, 3 Tiger HAP more escort units with their AA launcher, their Mistral, a couple of Celtics with more Mistrals, and then some TOWs. This seems to very well support his take and hold strategy. Another helicopter that you might want to bring in is the Cassiope. I haven't covered this in a while. I haven't used it in a while really, but I think that they got a buff and their AP power is now 3, which makes them even more formidable and even more deadly. Especially to light vehicles, and if they can get very, very close even to tanks, but you're gonna get pretty much point blank range in order for them to do any significant damage there. I would like to get these guys in, but we don't have 2 activation points lying about, so maybe I can steal that from somewhere else, but I don't think so. I think we're gonna need every command point that we can get. This is worth 2 points, but it's going to be coming at the cost of some AT capability, which is not going to be replaced by the Cassiope, so it's the trade-off. We're just going to keep it as is. Then he has a very, very high amount of airplanes. Of course, once you push by this, I believe, 5-point cost, the other airplanes only start to cost you 1. He went with 2 Rafales at Elite, so this is a very, very solid air superiority deck. I think it might be too much, but seeing as most of his infantry is airborne, all of his infantry is airborne, and that he doesn't have a lot of artillery, the bombers are going to have a clear route to their target. So we're going to have to get air superiority and make sure that their anti-air is down. And for that he has the Jaguar A and the Tornado, which are both solid anti-radar planes. So he also has a couple of Mirage 5Fs. You could call these the carpet bombers of the bunch, with 8 400 kilogram bombs. Super Etendars when facing heavy tanks, and some F1 CTs with cluster bombs. There's really nothing that I would change here. The only change that you might want to consider is getting an Alpha Jet in there with napalm. But these things are pretty much throwaway planes, and I don't think that 50 points for 1 delivery of napalm is really worth it. The Tornado IDS are pretty much always my preference over the Mirage SF, because they're more survivable, 30% ECM versus 10%, and they carry a little bit higher caliber bombs, so you get a little bit more HE power. But if you're dealing with a larger group of infantry, this might be better. We got the CT for dealing with vehicles. So I think that this is a pretty solid choice for the Air Force. Naval, he has spread his units out pretty much over all sorts of stuff. He has 1 card of Elite Commando Marines, 1 Elite Super Hornet, I'm not sure why, 3 Elite STRB 90s, 1 Tram Intruder at Elite, and 2 Hatsuyukis at Trained. This is a very, very peculiar setup, because with 1 Super Hornet and 1 Tram Intruder, even if you combine their fire, it's going to be very hard to penetrate the Sea-Wiz, so the anti-ship missile defenses of ships that you're targeting. Same with STRB 90s, you want these to operate in larger groups, especially when supporting coastline operations. The Hatsuyuki and the STRB 90s cannot be refueled, because he doesn't have a LCU in here. And you cannot really do anything with 4 Commando Marines. If you want to do an invasion, You're going to have to be sure that you can control that shore, while you can be reasonably sure about controlling the coast with a Hatsuyuki and an STRB-90H. But once these things are out of Hellfires, they're pretty much useless except for their grenade launchers. And then bringing in 4 Commander Marines, I don't like it that much. What I think would be more useful here, I'm just going to delete everything, is having a dedicated force that can support either allies or that is adding capabilities that we don't normally have in this deck. One such thing might be artillery, and I'm just going to type it in here because that's a little easier. I forgot the name. Yeah, of course, the Caesar. This still gives us the Caesar, while we also maintain our servals, so our mortars. I don't think we can bring in any other useful artillery. Let's see. Support. Artillery, howitzers. We can bring in these guys or longer range howitzers, but the Caesar fits that role exactly, so we don't really need that. So that is going to be the one card that I bring into my own naval zone, if we have one. What I'd also like here is, since we got air superiority, the ways to strike at enemy ships. So we're going to use anti-ship planes. And we're going to do that using the Super Hornet, get 2 of those. The ASUW, Anti-Surface Warfare CF-18. We don't really need the Tomcat for this one, because we already got 2 of those Mirage fighters, so we don't need them. The F-111Gs are nice as well, because they carry 4 harpoons. And we can then bring either Super Etendars with their long range, or some other stuff like tram intruders. And since these all have the same range, just different speeds, that's something you have to keep in mind. Let's see, these will travel at 1,000 and these at 750, so that's going to make it a little more intense to micromanage. These don't have a very good range. Super Etendar's got a great range but not a good speed. These guys would be nice additions. I base this off of their good speed, so I can call in all planes at exactly the same time and have them fly at the target at exactly the same time. I don't have to do all sorts of fancy maneuvers of first calling in, for example, the Super Etendars and then timing my launch of the Super Hornets and the ASUWs. So we're going to bring in 2 more of these, and that puts us an anti-ship plane force of 8. Should be enough. So this is how I would make some adjustments to this deck, not too many. And it's about time to have a look at how this deck would actually perform. So I'm going to try to find a 3v3, 4v4 or 10v10. Get some first land grabs with all of those helicopters. And then we're going to see if this deck can actually stand up to the enemy. For now, I hope you liked watching this video. If you did, be sure to hit that like button. If you have a deck you want to send in for me to review and possibly adjust, the link to that is in the description below. And if you want to see how this deck performs, keep an eye out on my channel because I'll have the video of performance of this deck up very soon. For now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next video.